When I went to visit Harper after she gave birth, I was surprised to find out that the newborn's father was Joseph. "Isn't our baby with Joseph just adorable? Sorry for having the baby before you did." Harper, with a triumphant look, then happily held her child. It all seemed to be part of Harper's plan. "Congratulations. I wish you both happiness." That's all I said to Harper and Joseph before attempting to leave the hospital room. They probably thought I would just walk away quietly. But I wasn't going to let things end like this. I immediately took out my smartphone. "The baby's born. Please come right away," is the call I made. "My name is Mia. I will be 34 years old this year." I was a slightly above average student, attending a high school that was considered mid-tier in my local area. The school had strict rules but was filled with great teachers. Harper was my best friend in high school. I missed the first day of high school because I was sick with a cold. When I went to school the next day, all the girls had already formed their groups. Being shy, I couldn't bring myself to join any of the chattering groups of girls. So, I sat alone at my desk, reading a book. That's when Harper approached me. "You weren't at school yesterday, were you? I'd like to be friends if that's okay." Harper greeted me with such a bright voice. My first impression of Harper was that she was incredibly cute. His eyes are round and his features are distinct. It wouldn't be surprising if she were an actress or something. I was sure she was popular. I thought she would quickly make other friends. However, that was not the case. Harper always stuck with me and didn't try to talk to other girls in the class. She did talk to boys occasionally, but that was it. So, during our freshman year of high school, Harper and I were always together. We'd hang out on weekends sometimes, and I think we were pretty close friends. From sophomore year, classes were divided based on the university students aimed to attend, like state universities or science-oriented universities. Luckily, Harper and I both chose to be in the class for students aiming for science universities, which was the only one of its kind at our school. This class was unpopular among girls, with only a few of us there. Naturally, Harper was very popular among the boys in our class, and it seemed like they were always talking to her. At times, it was like Harper was at the center of a reverse harem. She was always smiling and talking to the boys, and there was a lot of physical contact. Sometimes, boys who misunderstood her friendliness would confess their feelings to her. Normally, this would lead to jealousy among other girls, but the girls in our class didn't really care about such things. So there were no conflicts. Harper and I spent our entire high school years together. After graduation, I went on to study pharmacy, aiming to become a pharmacist. Harper, on the other hand, went into sociology. It was surprising to me that Harper chose a liberal arts field despite being in a science-oriented class. When I asked her about it, she said matter-of-factly, "Well, being in the science class meant being around a lot of boys, and who wouldn't want to be popular?" I just thought to myself, is that how it is? And didn't say anything more. Then, we went our separate ways for college. We kept in touch at first, but eventually, even that faded away. After college, I achieved my dream of becoming a pharmacist. The work of a pharmacist is profound. They check prescriptions for errors and provide medication counseling to ensure proper usage. I made many mistakes as a newbie and often got scolded by my coworkers, even to the point of tears. But I didn't give up and gradually got accustomed to the work. And it was at this job that I met Joseph. He worked in pharmaceutical sales and often visited the pharmacy where I worked. Joseph was easy to talk to from the start. He also had a deep knowledge about illnesses, and I found myself really liking him. Even though he would come to me to gather information as a newcomer, I often ended up learning a lot from Joseph instead. To me, Joseph just seemed to shine. Thinking back, I guess I had started to take an interest in Joseph around that time. The turning point in my relationship with Joseph came a year after we met. During one of his usual deliveries, Joseph handed me a note with his contact information along with the delivery slip. When I nervously made the call, Joseph picked up right away and said, Mia, thanks for calling. I'm really happy you did. After that, Joseph confessed that he liked me. We went out for meals a few times and eventually started dating. About 3 years into our relationship, Joseph proposed, and we got married. Joseph and I began our married life in his family home. His parents had already passed away, so even though it was his family home, it was just the two of us living there. This allowed me to live quite freely. However, our married life wasn't without its challenges. Mainly regarding children. 3 years into our marriage, we were still not blessed with a child. I had always wanted children. And so did Joseph. I'm an only child, so having kids is essential. He said to me. Joseph's cousin's sister had given birth to her 3rd child last year. Which made me feel even more anxious. Driven by my anxiety, I started visiting a fertility clinic. There, I underwent various tests and received advice from the doctors. I had high hopes for the clinic since it was known for its high pregnancy rates, and I spent a significant amount of our savings on the treatments. However, all my efforts were in vain, and the results of the fertility treatments were disappointing. A particular test result made me give up on my dream of having children. At first, friends and coworkers would say all sorts of things, but gradually they started to hold back, and eventually, no one mentioned anything about it. At work, people avoided talking about children when I was around. That was somehow painful. But Joseph's relatives were different. They didn't hold back on such a private topic. Especially his relatives, who would relentlessly blame me. Mia, what do you think about raising children? All I could do was laugh when they said things like that. The truth is, wanting kids myself, these moments were the most painful for me. And all the while I was being blamed, Joseph remained silent. He wouldn't even try to protect me from his relatives. Instead, I do want kids soon too, but Mia seems to like her job. And yet, he unilaterally blames me. It's not like Joseph was particularly fond of children. I think he just wanted to save face. So, he would blame me even when we were alone. I shouldn't have married Mia. If I had married someone else, I might have had kids by now. I made a mistake. He wasn't very proactive about fertility treatments, reluctantly going for tests. Of course, he wouldn't even look at the results, let alone listen to the doctor with me. Still, in love with Joseph, I silently took his words. It was the weakness of being in love. I just hoped for this unpleasant time to end and endured it all. Then, one day, I looked at my smartphone and have received a call from an unknown number. The calls kept coming even after I ignored them. So out of frustration, I finally answered, and it was someone from my past. Mia, I see you haven't changed your number. Harper? I was surprised because it was an unknown number. It turned out to be Harper on the line. She explained that she had changed her phone number after her old phone broke. And was contacting everyone to let them know. Harper then caught me up on her life. She had been through a divorce and is now living alone. She got married and became a housewife, but ended up divorcing due to irreconcilable differences with her husband. Now, she's working as a cashier at a supermarket. Since we hadn't been in touch much after high school, I had no idea Harper was going through all this. I always thought she would be happily married to a wonderful man suited for her. Then, Harper said, "You're still single, right, Mia? It's lonely being alone, isn't it?" She said. I didn't really mind her comment. I'm actually married. Just that we've been trying to have a child without much luck. I replied. Harper's voice seemed to lower a bit after hearing this. Oh, really? Mia is. I panicked, thinking I might have said something wrong, but then Harper quickly returned to her usual cheerful tone. Then I must visit your house sometime. I'd love to meet your husband. Relieved that Harper was back to her usual self, I agreed to meet up. Little did I know this would lead to an unbelievable turn of events. I was actually looking forward to seeing Harper again after so long. On the day Harper was supposed to come over. Long time no see, Mia. You haven't changed a bit. Harper hugged me as soon as she arrived at my house. And then glanced at Joseph. Nice to meet you. I'm Harper, a friend of Mia's. Mia's husband is such a wonderful man, I'm envious. Harper said this with an upward glance at Joseph. You think so? Joseph said, grinning. Despite it being 15 years since we graduated high school, Harper was still incredibly cute. And now she even had an added elegance of an adult woman. To think Mia had such a beautiful friend. I wish I had met you sooner, Joseph said, looking at Harper with a hint of regret. Harper responded happily to Joseph's remark. I would have loved to marry someone like Joseph. And Joseph, you work for that famous company that's advertised on TV, right? I really admire that. Harper continued to appeal to Joseph throughout her visit. Joseph seemed pleased by the attention, which made me feel somewhat sad, considering he is my husband. However, Harper is my friend. She's always had this personality, and I trusted she wouldn't betray me. Besides, Joseph and I have been together for many years. So I trusted him too. In the end, Harper left without exchanging contact information with Joseph, and the situation seemed to resolve itself. Yet, I continued to receive insensitive calls from Joseph's relatives. Mia, you're almost 35 now. You can't just keep working forever, you need to have a baby soon. I understood where the relatives were coming from, but I wished they would just leave me be for a while. However, I couldn't say such things, considering Joseph's relatives. Gradually, I began to feel worn out. Even when I tried to talk to Joseph about it. They're my relatives, so just try to get along with them. Besides, if you got pregnant, they wouldn't say these things. It's your fault, so deal with it properly, he says. After Harper's visit, I noticed a gradual change in Joseph's behavior. First, his return time from work started getting later and later. Something felt off. Suspicious, I decided to ask Joseph one day. Joseph, haven't you been coming home late recently? Is something going on? Joseph seemed momentarily flustered but quickly regained his composure. I've been going out for drinks more often with the pharmaceutical salespeople recently. There's nothing for you to worry about, Mia. I see. Although I found Joseph's behavior suspicious, I didn't press further. I considered the possibility of an affair, but without any proof, there was little I could do. Moreover, if these were genuinely work-related outings, I couldn't object. I knew Joseph was working hard in sales and wanted to support him. I loved Joseph too much, and I didn't want to cause a fight by probing further. So, I decided to leave it be. Besides, I'm not lonely because I have Harper. Recently, chatting with Harper has become a routine. She's got a boyfriend now. And always seems so happy to share about it in our chats. She's shy about revealing his name or details, which I find quite adorable. Where are you right now, Mia? I'm waiting to meet my boyfriend for a date. Harper always asks about my whereabouts. I'd love to introduce you to my boyfriend if you're nearby, so I was wondering if we could meet. She responds. But whenever I tell her my location, it seems we're always in completely different places. Too bad, we're a bit far apart. Maybe some other time, she says. I was a bit disappointed, but I looked forward to meeting Harper's boyfriend someday. As a year passed with Joseph's late returns becoming the norm, I received big news. That was a phone call from Harper. When I answered the phone as usual. Mia, I've given birth, she said to me. Really? Congratulations. Thank you. I just had to tell you first. I was surprised to hear that Harper was pregnant. I had no idea. We often talk about our boyfriends in our chats, but this was the first I heard of her pregnancy. She must have hesitated to tell me, considering my situation. I hadn't seen Harper since she visited my house a year ago. So I had no idea her belly had grown. So, could you come visit me in the hospital? I absolutely want you to see my baby. I hesitated for a moment. I've always wanted a child but haven't been blessed with one yet. I was unsure if I could genuinely be happy seeing Harper's child. However, that worry quickly vanished. Yeah, of course. It's a joyous occasion. That was my response. It was Harper's happy news. And as her friend, I wanted to celebrate with her. I immediately headed to the hospital where Harper was. How are you feeling, Harper? Entering Harper's private hospital room, I was shocked by what I saw. Why is Joseph here? For some reason, Joseph was standing next to Harper's bed. Then, with a triumphant smile, Harper revealed the astonishing truth. Why? Because Joseph is the father. I was at a loss for words at Harper's declaration. Going to visit Harper after she gave birth, only to find out that Joseph was the father of the newborn, was something I couldn't accept so suddenly. Our baby with Joseph is adorable, isn't it? Sorry for having a baby before you. After saying this with a triumphant expression, Harper happily held her child. Joseph couldn't hide his joyous face. It all seemed to have been calculated by Harper. Harper had always asked about my whereabouts during her dates, claiming she wanted to introduce her boyfriend, which now seemed like a lie to avoid meeting up. Harper knew Joseph wanted children. It's because I occasionally vented about it. So, she must have devised this plan to take Joseph away from me. Harper showed no signs of remorse. On the contrary, since you and Joseph couldn't have children, it's only natural that you let him go to me, right? After all, I was able to get pregnant. That's the situation. Joseph's response seemed to agree with Harper's statement. Since Harper gave birth to my child, she's more important to me than you are, Mia. So, I'm sorry, but could you divorce me? And since the house we live in is mine, please leave as soon as possible. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do Harper and Joseph think of me? Harper, basking in her perceived victory just because she's pregnant. And Joseph, choosing his affair partner who got pregnant over his longtime partner. I don't need these two anymore. I'm done with their fake love and friendship. With that resolution, I forced a smile. Congratulations. I wish you both happiness. That's all I said to Harper and Joseph before attempting to leave the hospital room. Mia probably can't have kids anyway, so she might as well just bury herself in her work, Harper said, laughing. Joseph also added, I've had to deal with a lot from the relatives because of Mia. It'll be nice to have them quiet down thanks to Harper. He said this as he embraced Harper, immersed in their own world together. They probably thought I would just quietly walk away. But I wasn't going to let things end like this. Just before closing the door, I quickly took out my smartphone and snapped a photo of the two of them embracing. They were too caught up in their moment to notice they were being photographed. How much more could they belittle me? And then, the baby's been born. Please come right away. I made a call to certain individuals. I waited at the hospital entrance, and within 20 minutes, my surroundings became lively. About 10 people gathered around. What do you mean the baby's been born? Joseph's relatives approached me with questions. One of the relatives looked at my attire and seemed puzzled. Mia seems to be in casual clothes. Aren't you supposed to be in hospital gowns? This hospital was close to Joseph's family home, which is probably why the relatives were able to arrive so quickly. Without answering their question, Joseph is also in the room right now. I'll guide you there immediately. I simply conveyed that and led the relatives to the hospital room where Harper and the others were. And we arrived in front of the hospital room of where Harper and Joseph are. As we approached the door, we could hear Harper and Joseph's voices from inside. Mia is such a fool, isn't she? To not notice that Joseph and I have been having an affair all this time, Harper said, laughing. Joseph agreed. That's Mia for you. She believed all the business-related drinking parties, making her so easy to handle. And she contributed a lot to our living expenses because of that. We could use that money for our dates. Poor Mia, really. Harper and Joseph continued to speak ill of me. It's truly infuriating. To insult someone like this and then to laugh about it as if it's nothing. I can never forgive Joseph and Harper. But it seemed I wasn't the only one who couldn't stand it any longer. The relatives, unable to hold back any longer, stormed into the room. And their angry voices filled the space. "Joseph, what is the meaning of this?" Joseph turned pale upon seeing the relatives' faces. Joseph's relatives held traditional views, believing that men should work outside while women should take care of the home. However, they were absolutely intolerant of misconduct like affairs. Joseph probably didn't say anything to the relatives because he knew this. He must have been planning to brush it off once things had settled down. Harper, seemingly unaware, greeted them. "Are you Joseph's relatives?" "I'm Harper. I'll be Joseph's new wife, so I'm looking forward to your congratulations on the birth," she said. Harper's ability to mention a celebration in such a situation was astonishing. Only someone lacking common sense could do something like this. Harper's comments incited the relatives to confront Joseph hysterically. "Joseph, have you been having an affair all this time? What are you doing?" Joseph, unable to say anything. He seems intimidated by the relatives. So, I kindly offered an explanation. "Joseph has been having an affair with Harper here for a year. Harper was a friend from my high school days, but she betrayed me. Joseph has chosen Harper over me and plans to leave me." I said this with a sorrowful expression. "What have you done?" "We're cutting ties with you as a family member," Joseph counters with a puzzled look on his face. "But we always talked about having children. It's someone else's child, but still mine. I just did what was said." Harper, angered, also spoke up. "I got pregnant instead of Mia, who couldn't. You should be thanking me instead." I questioned Harper and Joseph's statements. "Why do you both think I can't get pregnant?" "Well, we've been married for a while and you never got pregnant. So, isn't it all your fault?" "I'm not to blame." "Exactly. I managed to get pregnant, but Mia couldn't. That means Mia is defective, not me," Harper shouted, getting heated up. I despised their attempts to shirk responsibility. Any affection I had for Joseph vanished. I had remained silent because I loved Joseph, but now that I no longer felt that way, it didn't matter. I decided to confront Joseph and Harper with the truth. "I'm not defective. The one with the defect is you." I said this in front of the relatives. "Me, defective? What do you mean?" "Yes, because I'm pregnant with Joseph's child." I showed everyone an email. It contained the results of a fertility test Joseph had undergone during our fertility treatments. The test results revealed that Joseph was the one who couldn't have children. I had undergone various tests during the fertility treatment, and the results showed that I was perfectly capable of conceiving. Despite trying, I couldn't get pregnant. So, the doctor suggested Joseph should also undergo a test. However, Joseph was convinced there was no issue on his end. "Why should I get tested if it's Mia's fault?" I somehow managed to persuade Joseph to at least take the test. But he showed no interest in the results. Even when I tried to tell Joseph about the test findings. "I'm not interested, so it's fine," he says. I was somewhat relieved that Joseph wasn't interested in the results. At that time, I still loved Joseph and didn't want to upset him unnecessarily. So I didn't insist on discussing the results. Remembering this, I continued. I was found to be perfectly normal in the tests. The doctor said there was no problem with my ability to get pregnant. So, Joseph, you were the reason. I confronted Joseph with the reality. Then, I turned to Harper. She looked pale. "Harper, whose child is that? It definitely can't be Joseph's." "What's going on, Harper? Did you lie to me?" Joseph, in a state of near panic, confronted Harper. A child believed to be one's own. The shock of betrayal must be significant. Harper, seemingly unable to come up with a good excuse, remained silent. "This can't be happening." Joseph collapsed to the floor, as if all strength had left him. "I thought you were my friend, Harper. Why would you do this?" I asked Harper, who was no longer even looking at the child. The baby had been crying in the bed all this time. It seemed the child was just a tool to Harper. The child was crying, possibly hungry, but Harper didn't even glance at him. She muttered softly, "I never really thought of Mia as a friend. I just saw her as someone I could use. And Joseph, I only thought of him as a source of money." Harper's confession was appalling. At this point, I had no mercy left. "You're truly despicable. Well, just so you know, I'll be claiming alimony for the divorce." The mention of alimony shocked Harper. "I can't afford to pay any alimony. I don't have that kind of money." Saying so, Harper appears troubled. As she fretted, I showed her the photo of her and Joseph embracing. "I've already got the evidence. And I've recorded all our conversations. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, so be prepared." Harper clicked her tongue in frustration. Amidst this, Joseph desperately tried to appeal to me. "What?" I gave him a cold look. But Joseph continued undeterred. "I realized something. You're the one who matters to me, Mia. Since the child isn't mine, let's start over." "The relatives. You're really the worst." With a look of disdain, they gazed at Joseph. I smiled at Joseph sweetly. "I have no intention of forgiving you. We're getting divorced. And of course, I'll be claiming alimony through my lawyer." I firmly rejected Joseph. "Besides, unlike you, I have the chance to have children, so I have no feelings left for you. Goodbye." "I was wrong. Please, don't abandon me." He was crying, but it was too late. Not just me, but the relatives also looked at Joseph with cold eyes. Alone now, Joseph would undoubtedly face difficulties. In the end, Joseph and Harper did not get married. The child Harper had was not Joseph's. It turns out Harper had someone she liked, and the child was his. After spending a lot of money on him, he left her when he found out about the pregnancy. Harper was left with a significant amount of debt. At that moment, she comes up with the idea to give birth to the child as Joseph's, whom she had kept in reserve. That's when she thought of passing the child off as Joseph's, considering his stable income. However, the plan only worked until this incident exposed everything. Harper is currently missing. Living on the run isn't easy. And wherever she is now, she's likely facing hardships. Harper's child was quickly placed in a care facility. The child is innocent and deserves a bright future. As for Joseph, he eventually quit his sales job. Our divorce was finalized quickly, and the alimony was paid. He initially resisted, but after facing pressure from relatives, he signed the divorce papers. I'm deeply grateful to the relatives who supported me until the end. According to the new representative at our pharmacy, Joseph was in a daze for a long time after everything happened. One day, Joseph made a significant mistake. It seems he mistakenly delivered pharmaceuticals to the wrong pharmacy. The intended recipient was furious about this mistake. Naturally, he was removed from his responsibilities and made similar mistakes at several other locations. This led to his voluntary resignation. Joseph is likely living alone in that large house we once shared, but without an income. It's uncertain how long he can maintain his lifestyle. He's probably facing a difficult life now, which I believe is a natural consequence. 2 years have passed since then, and my life has seen significant changes, including getting pregnant. After the divorce was finalized, I started participating in matchmaking activities. I have attended several parties and quickly hit it off with a man my age. Given their mature ages, they decided to get married right away. And soon after, I became pregnant. Having always wanted a child, this has been incredibly joyous for me. My marriage with Joseph was filled with challenges. But life with my current husband is filled with happiness. He's always considerate of me. And I look forward to a joyful life with him and our upcoming child.